Anyway, so my name is Alex Pinto, and this is biting into the, this is one of the longest titles I've ever done. Biting into the jawbreaker, pushing the boundaries of threat hunting automation. And the hashtag for this talk is HAM, with 2 M's, and there's a very good reason for that that will be revealed as the presentation goes forward. Actually, the title will also be revealed, so anyway, trust me, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the other one, and hopefully this will not be a complete waste of your time. So anyway, basically what we're gonna be talking here is about pushing the boundaries of threat intelligence automation, right? And I'm gonna address a little bit of what Rob said on the keynote as well, but before I get there, I just wanna cover, there's gonna be 4 barriers we're gonna be talking about, right? In a way, 4 boundaries we have to push in order to really achieve whatever this fully automation things mean, right? And hopefully, this is something that's gonna make sense to all of you, right? So anyway, who is this guy? So I'm a security data scientist and I'm a capybara enthusiast. So capybaras are the chilliest animals in the animal kingdom. I achieved to be one of the nicest people in InfoSec in the world, but actually David Bianco is the nicest person in InfoSec in the world, so I'm working to get there, right? So anyway, I'm a co-founder at Nido, and I've been doing a lot of presentations under the MLSec project. So the MLSec project is a kind of a community. It's, think about mailing lists, Slack rooms, where people are exchanging ideas about what works and doesn't work in machine learning for security, right? And I'm a co-founder at Nido, and Nido is self-named, self-described as an autonomous threat hunting system, right? And I can see a lot of your faces curling here, right? Which brings me to the point of why are we having this talk, right? This talk exists because Rob Emily, which is a good friend, he's also in one of those 1,000 Slacks, he looked at the tagline and just like, dude, I really respect you, I think you do good work, but this is absurd. You cannot say that. People are gonna laugh you out of the room. And I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'm very fundamented. I have a very clear definition of what automation is. I have a very clear definition of what threat hunting is. What's your definition? No, humans have to do it. That's my definition. And I'm like, that sounds a little bit self-serving, right? So can we define this a little bit better, right? And so my job on this presentation is going to try to draw some boundaries, right? So every time someone tells you that they're automating threat hunting, right, or they're not automating threat hunting, you ask them to point at the diagram and say where the bad man hurt you, right? Which one is the barrier that you're talking about right now, right? And I just think it just makes this discourse so much easier, right? And I think Rob gave me a gift in the beginning, because the problem that I find with fully automated threat hunting is, what does fully mean? What does automating mean? And what does threat hunting mean, right? If I was to sit down here and explain what threat hunting means, that would be my whole 30 minutes. So gladly, we're not going to have to do that. But he used the spell checking example. We all know what spell checking is, right? In my perspective, we have fully automated spell checking. There's no like imps behind the screen telling me what the new word should be. We haven't automated remediation of spell checking. If I don't want to click on the thing to change the word, it's not going to change, right? So I think there's a problem between detection and remediation, maybe on the definitions, but we'll get to that, right? We'll get to that. And I'm pretty sure Rob, on his presentations, will have the same Little Bobby's comics that I have, by the way, which is going to be fun. So this is the threat hunting jawbreaker, right? And this is when was it? The FIR? Last year? Well, anyway, this is Rob Lee's, right? And he made it as a joke because, of course, pyramid of pain, everybody needs to have one of those. And those are very good points, right? He puts very good points on the things that are important on the threat hunting or not, right? But again, the fully automate, right? What does automate mean? What does hunting mean? So based on this, and based on the discussions we had, I pretty much said, okay, I'll bite, right? So this presentation is me biting into the jawbreaker, right? He baited me into making this presentation, and Bianco, because he just want to watch the world burn, he actually accepted my CFP to talk about this. So I'm going to defer to him, right? I'm going to get one of the greatest works that Mr. Bianco has ever presented to the community, right? And I'm going to use it as a point of argument to what I'm going to do. And it's not the primitive pain. It's actually the hunting maturity model that he put together. By the way, this is like the first presentation I didn't use a pyramid of pain in like 4 years. So I'm recovering. So yeah, a maturity model, right? Why don't we talk about hunting as a maturity model? Hunting automation as a maturity model. Because then we can be much clearer in our descriptions, right? And when a vendor knocks at your door, I am automating hunting, like you actually have the tools to laugh him out of the room, right? And not just do finger pointing or something like that. So not to delve too much into this, I would not give it justice, but this is the idea that we're going to follow here, right? And I don't know how many of you managed to go to the CTI Summit. There was this great presentation by Cliff Stoll, and they were handing out these as T-shirts, right? This is also a maxim that I see all the time, that data is not information, information is not something, something else is not whatever the other next thing is, right? And I think this also ties into this maturity, right? In a way, you got to fully grasp the first stage that you are in order to be able to evolve to the next one. So anyway, without further delay, the first barrier we have to break in order to automate something is to actually automate it. So it's very appropriately called the automation barrier. So we have to do something in an automatic way. So what is the first order of automation? This has nothing to do with Star Wars, by the way. God, I almost got thrown out of the stage right now. This has nothing to do with Star Wars, right? The thing about the first order. The idea here, I'm going to use first order, second order, is like, I don't know how many of you, probably not, are into math, right? I know it's kind of math. But the idea here is like degrees of freedom or degrees of, think about degrees of infinity, like how the natural numbers are infinite. But if you take the integer numbers, which has negative numbers as well, it's also infinite, but it's a larger infinite, right? Larger infinite, who cares? Well, mathematicians do a lot, right? This actually makes a lot of difference. So think about this as like the first order, the data part of that Cliff Stoll thing, right? And when people are talking about automating threat hunting, 9 out of 10, and this is a completely made up statistic, by the way, think that this is what you're doing when you're automating. And that's the only thing you can do. You can write some YARA roles, you can check some file hashes, you can add some domain names, right? And this is definitely the lowest possible bar. If someone tells you they're automating the hunt, right, odds are they have somewhere you can put a list of hashes that they're going to look through in the machines. And that pisses me off too, right? That's not even close to what I would consider to be automation, right? I'm trying not to curse on this presentation. Anyone with a shell script, right, can do that, right? And I'm just automating the person that's clicking the button of the shell script. That's not a very high bar, right? So I would get frustrated as well as a customer if someone came to me and said, this is automating threat hunting. So I understand the pain, right? So anyway, let me give you some examples, right? And these are some examples I also used in the CTI Summit about the idea of using indicator data for this first order of automation, right? So I'm not even going to go into blocking the actual domains you got, but you can start to do something looking at the actors that register the domain, you know? Maybe you don't like Mr. Miroshikenko. Maybe you don't like him, right? So maybe you look at everything he registered. Oh, yeah, it looks all pretty bad. Doesn't look like there's anything active. It's not even domain shadowing, so he's not hijacking someone's GoDaddy thing. So yeah, I'm totally going to block this guy. I just automated the threat hunting for this specific actor, right? This is a first order thing, right? But then as you start to look into this technique, right? Okay, a lot of emails. This is all rigged from October, by the way. This is all like stuff that really happened in October, was active. So you can start to see, okay, the emails for registrant seems okay, but you look at the AS numbers, OVH, right? So OVH was terrible, got pretty good because of someone who used to work there, and now he left, So everybody's betting that's going to be pretty terrible soon again. Should I block OVH? The vast majority of things coming from rig. You know, by the way, the background here is that, I don't know, the CEO got owned by rig and no more rig, or something like that. So this is your mission. So how do you protect with this level of tooling, right? So itgrad.ru, maybe if you don't have any Russian offices, right? So you start to lose freedom. You start to lose the capability to effectively automate this because there's more nuance, right? If you look at the TLDs that were more frequent on rig, the number one was .com, right? Of course you can block .com, but you're going to be looking for a job the next day, right? So the problem here, right, and this is, again, we don't have enough tooling at this order of automation in order to fully grasp this, is the idea of context that, you know what, I've been doing this for a while, and .com is pretty okay. So I'm probably not going to block .com. I'm going to do something different, right? We just reached the context barrier, right? So whatever system that you're trying to automate, if it doesn't have any context in what is normal in your environment, right? Or what's more likely or not in other dimensions, right? You probably have an issue. So we had another order of analysis, which is pretty much the context analysis, right? And I have no idea. Is it cutting there? No, it's not. It's only cutting here. So the idea here is maybe we can get statistical summaries to try to get a better idea of our internal data. So a lot of the lateral movement stuff nowadays, which is being delivered by UBAs, some of them sometimes do some good work. And a lot of that is done through statistical analysis, right? No, you're not looking for a signature, you're not looking for an IP address, but you're looking for the second order of context, which is, oh, these guys are talking a lot amongst themselves, but they don't normally do that, right? And I'm just giving some examples here of ways that you can automate that. These are all numbers you can generate. So Bianco, again, did a great blog. I don't know if it was a blog post or if it was something on threathunting.net about PCR, the producer-consumer ratio, right? I'm in love with that stuff. It's a very stable metric of behavior deviation that's not sensitive to outliers. So this is a great idea. He's going to have a presentation, I think, is it today or tomorrow? This afternoon, about some other techniques you can do. This is all second-order stuff, and this is all easy to automate. The example that Tim was doing here is a second-order automation. He's not specifically looking for a signature, but he's using his knowledge of signatures in order to expand his knowledge, right? Expand his understanding of the things that could be good or bad, right? So there's a lot of different things that you can add. So again, at the CTI summit, I promise this is the only equation, okay? Nobody panic. This is the only equation I'm going to put on the presentation. So I was talking about a maliciousness ratio tied to that other example, a way for you to figure out if you should care about a TLD or an ASN or something like that as a decision point for you to block or not, right? So just count the number of bad stuff and the number of good stuff that you have. Maybe that's a ratio of how much bad you know in the pool of everything that you know. And of course, this varies from customer to customer, as it should, right? So whatever is normal, if you have a lot of offices in Russia, right, going to mail.ru is every day, all the time, everyone, right? If you don't, if you are a credit union in Alabama, one mail.ru hit, you can sound the claxons, right? It's all relative. It's all relative on your context and your understanding of the environment. I click again. So again, this is just some ideas from that example I was showing you, right? So the rate of all the ASNs that that specific data set I was looking at was visiting was 0.6. So 0.6 of the entries of badness that I had versus the entries of goodness. This is almost the base rate of how much badness you usually find on a domain. This is a very like, you know, background radiation of the internet, right? But then you say that IT grad, the data that I had collected on IT grad, 87% of the IP addresses there, I only had bad data about. I didn't have good data about. So this is telling me that someone going to IT grad, that ASN, for that specific environment where I took these measurements, is probably almost 150 times more likely to be a bad place, right, than if he was going to, I don't know, an ASN in Google, right? So these are numbers. These are all easy to understand numbers, that you could potentially be using to automate, that you could potentially be using to support your decision making, right, on hunting, right? And this is a type of automation. Nobody here is counting every time. Okay, Jim, I need you to run that report. So I want you to open the log data, and I want you to, right, and see how many good and how many bad we have, right? So we can add context, and by adding context, we can make our tools, our automation tools, better. What's the problem, right? And that's our next barrier. The problem is, okay, IT grad is bad, or seems bad, for these objective measure of second order evaluation. But does that mean the whole thing is bad? What if it was a really a reputable domain that was registered in Mark Monitor, right? And just happened to have an IP there, you know? Maybe one of the CDNs messed up, right? How do we, as hunters, we look at this data that's presented to us about a specific communication or a specific data point, and we make the decision that, okay, this is probably bad because I've seen enough stuff like this. Or I know that this actor is now using Mark Monitor because, anyway, whatever, other reputable register, which is slightly easier to hack, which there are a ton of them. So, and they have been hosting. I know that because I've been looking at the data, right? As I have X years of experience because I have all of those things. So I know which one of those signals matter, right? In order to make the final conviction, so to speak, of something that's happening, right? So here we are at the experience barrier, right? And this is pretty much what I was telling you about. How do you combine all this first order or second order signals and you make a call, right? What do you need to convict, right? And the point here is that this gut feeling that I'm pretty sure all of us in this room have, if we have worked more than 15 days into the threat hunting, actual doing threat hunting, right? This comes from knowledge and experience and looking at past incidents and compiling all these lists of information of, oh, this was good, but they had these bad markers. This was bad, but this had these markers, and these markers helped me make this decision. This was good, and this is the associated information. This was bad, and this is the associated information. These are all the things that I've learned in my time as a hunter, this is how I make my decisions. Well, my friends, this sounds suspiciously like supervised machine learning to me. The secret of any machine learning model is how you encode the information, right? So if I'm trying to build a model to tell apart cats and dogs, right, I need to figure out how am I going to tell. This is not like, oh, I look at the image and I'm trying to create like the script. I'm trying to describe it to a computer. Oh, yeah, cats are fuzzy. They have fur. That's not a very good one. So dogs are majestic, right? They have this insightful look on them, right? So that's the point, right? Whatever you feed the system and however you describe to the system, right, obviously changes what the machine learning is capable of not of doing, right? So, for instance, if I only had grumpy cats in my sampling table, right, I could write a feature where all cats are grumpy. So this guy is never going to be classified as a cat because all cats are grumpy, right? And if all dogs are majestic, right, this guy, poor guy, I don't even know what that is. So if you think of this problem as you have enough signals from your hunting, if you have enough first order and second order tools and hunting aids and all those different things that you have deployed on your environment, right? Again, Tim just gave a great example of a tool, a focused tool. The more focused those tools are, the better they are. This is 100% correct. So that's an input on your human decision engine, right? If you are going to convict something or not, right? Maybe if you can just describe it well enough to a computer, right? Maybe a computer would be able to do this too, right? So this is an example of a computer doing something like that, right? This specific example, the system only knows that the one that has a triangle, that's the only data point, the only IOC it has. It knows that that was involved in a scam, right? But when it looked across the board, what it knew about the IP address it was resolving to, what it knew about who registered the domain, who didn't register the domain, what were the NS systems, right? It actually found related things to it. And you'll see that it's trying to tell me the second order things. It's telling me there's a low likelihood that the registrant or the registrar is bad. It does, for it, the registered email is as good as it can get. It has absolutely no information on it. But it pretty much convicts the IP address, right? But it really, really doesn't like the name server, right? And why is that? This is a registrar that's hiding the domain. It's hiding the registrant information, right? So trying to match those guys by email is pointless, but you can easily match these guys by the name servers, right? So here's the thing. I've just shown you something that any threat hunter can do very easily, right? If it happened to be looking at those specific number of events, but there's no driver in this car, right? This is the point I'm trying to make, right? It's not impressive when you see a car making a turn, but if there's no driver, oh, holy shit, what's happening? Oh, damn, I cursed. I apologize. I apologize. Anyway, and finally, we reach the final barrier, which I call the Lee Bianco barrier, right? Which you can also call the creativity barrier, which is, anyway, it's your call. I like the Lee Bianco barrier better. So here's the thing. You cannot make stuff up, right? As threats evolve, right? As you need new pieces of data in order to make a conviction. As attackers get smarter, right? You're going to get, oh, now I need to look at this thing now. If I don't look at this thing, I cannot fully decide if something I can convict something or not, right? So, I mean, there were two that I think of that were interesting with the domain fronting thing. No? How many of you were actually looking at the byte counts of the communication before in your hunting process, before you saw the thing about domain fronting, right? How many of you on the IDN phishing thing were actually doing the Punycode conversion on the domain that you saw there, right, to make it Punycode, and then you could in somehow string compare, right? We are learning this as humans as well, as we see the new, whatever the new threats are. And what we're doing, we're writing playbooks, right? We're writing playbooks, so then our teams can treat that. Yeah, so we as humans on this above the Lee Bianco barrier, right? What we have to do is write the playbooks for our team or, God forbid, our automation systems, right? In order for them to be better at this. So I really think the Lee-Bianco barrier is here to stay. I don't think there is you can transpose the Lee-Bianco barrier, right? Even if people start to sell you deep learning, this doesn't work. Okay, let me be a little bit more precise about that statement. So the argument would be that convolutional neural networks are very good at finding hidden features, right? So I don't really need to define what I'm looking for. The system will just figure itself out. The problem that nobody tells you is that convolutional neural networks are only good at environments where, A, you have a lot of available data. But it's not like, think about data, think about how much data you would use. Okay, that's not even nearly enough, right? So, and those things need to be classified by humans, right? So somebody has to go through all those images and tell that there's a dog on the image or there's a mountain on the image. Who's doing this work? You guys know who's doing this work. We are all doing this work for Google when we do CAPTCHA. This is what we're doing for them. We're the humans clicking on, here, there's a dog on this picture, right? But you know what? It's so cool. We all know what a dog looks like. It's a very evenly distributed skill, right? Almost everyone in the world knows what a dog looks like. So they will be able to click correctly. How many people in this room, you don't have to, please don't tell them, because I don't want fights to break out. How many people in this room do you trust to classify an event correctly? Ask yourselves that. I trust Bianco. But that's the thing. This is why it doesn't work. This is why anything that you would put like, oh yeah, I'm just going to have the analysts classify the tickets, and then it will train the model. Dude, have you ever run a SOC? Are you going to put okay, guys, your mission for this, your goal this month is going to be how many tickets you can close and classify correctly? Dude. Anyway, if anybody says deep learning, go away. That's my tip. So I want to talk about HAM. So HAM is the hunting automation maturity model, right? And this is what we want to, this is the thing that, I mean, I don't know if you guys are going to like it or not, it's fair, but at least it's how I'm going to, if somebody comes to me, oh, you can't fully automate, I'm going to like, okay, please point at the diagram, right? So anyway, here's HAM. Okay, no, sorry, not this one, not this one. So here is HAM, right? I'm not going to read what's in the side. It's just that, if you guys want just one slide that pretty much has everything, this is pretty much it. And I'm putting the human domain there on the fourth order, right? Which is the ability to create completely new detection things that doesn't exist. But if you guys have been paying attention, even the second order descriptions I was doing is way ahead of any signature-based matching today, right? It's where all the UBA vendors, do you have any UBA vendors here in the audience? There should be a couple, there should be a few. Okay, I apologize to all the rest, but UBA guys, you can now just say you're automating threat hunting as well. Just do that, just tell your sales guys. So, to try to conflate automating threat hunting with writing signatures is misguided. There's so much more we can do, and I think I'm trying to build out the case, right, of the different layers where you can look at this problem, the different ways you can organize, and almost obviously trying to anchor that into our human experience, right? If we're not trying to do the work a good human would do, what the hell are we going to do? So I have an alternate representation of HAM. Maybe some of you guys will be more, you like this one better. So this is also HAM. Okay, so on the top phase, on the final level, if you're not Rob Lee or David Bianco, you're probably screwed, right? So show of hands, how many of you here in the audience are either Rob Lee, either one's fine, or David Bianco? I count 2. I don't see little Rob. So yeah, so there may be 200 people. So less than 1% of this room is actually operating on the 4th level right now. This is not good. We need to work harder. So finally, just to cap off, if we're going to be picky about automation and threat hunting, I mean, I'm happy to choose another name, right? I mean, I like threat farming. I think threat farming is funny, right? Because instead of going there and hunting, you're just like growing your crops, and then the threats come to you. It sounds a little bit like, oh, wait, I'm creating my own threats? So it's kind of cognitively weird, but I'm happy to pick another name. It's fine, right? But you cannot tell me that those ideas and those processes that I just described are not what we all commonly call threat hunting.